Hey guys, welcome to our live stream. It is, of course, Shark Awareness Day, so we want to say thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, guys. Thank you again so much for joining us. We are going to introduce ourselves. I can start with myself. My name is Susie. I operate as lead guide here at Marine Dynamics. And next to me,
Hi guys, I'm Amy, so I'm one of the marine biologists that we have here at Marine Dynamics, and of course, I'm also a part of the guiding team. So most of our time is spent, of course, on the shark cage diving boats that we have here. But of course, guys, we do just want to say here in Gansbaai, that's where we're streaming live from in South Africa, we have been having a fair few storms. So we will say, of course, if there is any power cuts or anything, please do bear with us. If the live stream does cut as well, we will reschedule this for another day. Of course, we've got many things we want to discuss with you guys and hope that you'll appreciate that too.
and also, guys, please, if you do have any questions throughout this live stream, please feel free, and hopefully we will have an answer for you guys.
We'll definitely do our best. So, of course, a little bit about Marine Dynamics. So we have, as mentioned, our shark cage diving boats. So we go out, of course, weather permitting, and we do spend most of our time in the water in the presence of our sharks. So we want to share a little bit about the species that we have, some of the data collection that we do, and also a little bit about how you guys can help sharks as well. So I think a good time for us to start mentioning the species that we have.
All right, guys. So first out, we are going to start with our most common species you can encounter throughout our trips, which is the bronze whale shark, also known as a copper shark for their striking bronze coloration, and also known as a narrow-toothed shark. These sharks are a mostly coastal species here in South Africa and can be found mostly in the southern hemisphere. They can reach the length normally between 3.3 to maximum 3.5 meters in length, and they do have a natural lifespan about 25 to 30 years. So these sharks, as they are a schooling species, they are cooperative hunters as well, mostly feeding on bait balls such as anchovies and sardines, but also the reason for these sharks' name as a whaler name that comes all the way back from the 19th century. During the whaling days, the fishermen and sailors could see these sharks swarming around the dead harpoon whales in their oil slick. All right, next up, we do have my favorite species of shark, which is the broadnose seven-gill shark. These sharks do have their name through their 7 gill slit openings. Also, guys, if you do know or can see, they don't have a dorsal fin. So how can we do identification on each individual? As they don't have a dorsal identification, that is through their unique print as the white and black spots. So these guys can normally be found in coastal waters in the kelp forest. Unfortunately, they are a vulnerable species by the IUCN Red List. Beautiful shark to interact with, also very curious as well. All right, next up we have
our iconic great white shark, as pictured behind.
So guys, of course, the great white shark, one of the biggest apex predators out there on top of the food chain. They can reach a length over 6 meters in length, and it can also weigh more than a little elephant, over 2,000 kilograms. So these sharks, they are in the mackerel family, so they are warm-blooded. That is also why they are highly migratory species, meaning you can find them in most waters except the most Arctic oceans that we know. A success story that was all the way back to 2003 when it comes to white shark migration patterns. That was a female white shark under 4 meters called Nicole, and she was tagged outside here of Gansbaai with a pot tag, that is a satellite tag. And throughout 9 months, she went here from Gansbaai to Southwest Australia and back. And how could you know that this was the same shark? And that is because of dorsal identification. All right.
Perfect. So a great segue into the work that we do in terms of research and data collection as well. So of course, these sharks, beautiful to look at, but we do want to take the necessary data on these animals as well. So on every single trip that we do, the marine biologist team and guide team, we will go out with our data sheets and of course take down various notes on the sharks as well as the natural conditions that we are working into. So we'll be looking at, of course, the oceanic conditions and also taking into account our wind direction, water temperature. And when it comes to our sharks, we'll note down all the different species that we have, of course, but that's not where we stop, okay? We will look at the individual lengths of all the species, so the smallest individual all the way up to the largest one as well. This does provide a really good indication of the type of sharks that are using the area. So if we have the larger individuals, of course, this means we do have some adults coming through, but through those size ranges, we'll also have some sub-adults and even some juveniles. We do have an estuary just near our dive site, which is one of the most common nursery grounds for a lot of shark species. So it really shows the value of the environment that we do have as well. Of course, as Sushi mentioned, we do our dorsal ID as well. So this is specific to our great white sharks. So the way we do this, they have these individual grooves and notches that are formed in the trailing edge of the fin. So this essentially will act as a fingerprint for the sharks. So we're able to see whether it's a familiar face, a familiar dorsal coming through, or a new individual as well. For our 7 gills, as mentioned, they do have this spot pattern along their backside. So this creates an individual map, and same for those white sharks, it is an individual print. So we're able to see, of course, which sharks we are working with in our area as well. We don't stop there though. As mentioned, we'll be looking at our water conditions too. So the main things we note down are the temperature, the dissolved oxygen, and then of course the pressure too. And this is done at 3 different levels. So the surface, the mid, and then right down deep to around 10 meters, which is typically the deepest place that we will be dropping anchor as well, as we operate in a place that we call the shallows. So, of course, the more you know about the animals that you're working with, the more effective your conservation can be as well. So, we will make use of this consistent long-term data set. It allows us to see the full range that we're working with, any patterns that are changing over time as well. So, we're able to link this to any sort of environmental changes and see the effects this is having on the sharks as well. But of course, guys, with our sharks, the reason we have to be doing this data collection is because with a lot of these species, they are unfortunately threatened. Now let's Susie explain a bit more.
Now, first of all, guys, still many don't know that sharks is one of the longest living species we have. They've been around for almost 450 million years. To put it in perspective, sharks have survived 5 global mass extinctions. They are older than Mount Everest and even trees. So unfortunately, because of us, one race, the Homo sapiens, are we going to be the one to get them totally extinct from the wild? And why do we need sharks in all our oceans? Well, as I said earlier, apex predators or top predators, they are on top of the food chain. They keep a healthy ecosystem in the area they are in, so they are a crucial role to a healthy ocean. So the threats that sharks are having because of us humans, of course, one of those things are commercial fisheries. You do also have the finning, which is a big problem when it comes to sharks as well, which only the fins are being consumed and the rest is being thrown back into the ocean, which is also horrible. You also do have habitat loss for sharks as well. And of course, another big role is the media. When it comes to the misinformation about sharks, especially in movies, that's also the reason so many people fear sharks. And also when it comes to media as well, unfortunately. So sharks are highly endangered, unless 1 out of 3 shark species are listed by the International Union of Conservation of Nature, which is the IUCN Red List. And here in South Africa, we have an incredible biodiversity when it comes to shark rays and skate species, about 200 different species throughout the South African coastline. And 40 out of these species are listed on the IUCN Red List, from least concern to critically endangered, for example. So the reason for that, Amy?
So with a lot of our sharks, unfortunately, as mentioned, they are endangered as a result of these actions that we do have. I will take a little moment. Of course, we have had some comments. I want to say thank you guys for the support of our company and the work that we do. Of course, it goes directly back into our ecosystem, making sure we are protecting what we're working with. But just to read a comment that we have, in 2019, we had a client come to Gansbaai and there were no white sharks. They assumed because they are endangered, and the question is whether they have repopulated now. So when it comes to our white sharks, of course, as Susie mentioned, they are highly migratory species. And in 2017, we had a bit of a shock in our bay, okay? That was orca predation, and it was something that hadn't necessarily been seen before, especially within our area, a very small locality. So the two that we had were port and starboard. Those are the two orcas. They are known to be stepbrothers. And when it came to this, of course, with the white sharks, they started predating on their livers, and this did lead to a fleeing response of the white sharks in the area. When it comes to white sharks, they do have a declining population as a result of endangerment, and of course, as mentioned, a lot with the fisheries too. So it's not just orcas to blame. We do have a very big part to play when it comes to altering the shark, of course, sort of population statistics that we are working with. And as mentioned, highly migratory, very hard for us to keep a full track on them. There is consistent research being conducted across the coast of South Africa to see whether we are having a recovery in this population or whether they have moved a little bit further up the coast as well. But one of the main reasons sharks are, of course, so vulnerable when it comes to these fishing pressures, removing their habitats, and the direct killing of them is because they have a slow reproductive rate. So a lot of them do have a fairly long lifespan, but the time they take to reach an age of sexual maturity where they can actually, of course, reproduce and help establish the population is quite a long time. So the rate that we're taking them out of our waters, they aren't able to repopulate in that same time. So of course we are seeing these declines in the populations that we have as well. But that is why it is particularly important to understand where our sharks are up to, what they're doing, so we can protect the areas that they are within, and of course make sure that we are making the correct choices when it comes to sustainable seafood, and of course making sure that we aren't directly consuming those sharks as well.
So guys, what you can do to help, especially when it comes to the choice of what you're consuming of fish, and of course if there is sharks as well. Here in South Africa, we do have Sassi, which is the South African Sustainable Seafood Initiative that was established to drive change in the local seafood industry when it comes to suppliers, when it comes to the fishers, and of course the ones selling seafood as well. So if you want to help, for example, also your local restaurant, you can go into the Sassi online, which is going to be listed as green, orange, or red. The green one is a sustainable choice to choose. The orange one is the species you should think twice about before consuming. And of course, the red one is the one you should definitely not consider consuming as well. So that is of course something you at home can do to help sustain a good seafood industry here in South Africa as well.
Another way, of course, unfortunately, we have mentioned the finning trade already. So sharks are consumed directly by the public in certain areas as well. Of course, you can make the choice to not be making these assumptions when it comes to your food as you go out, especially when it comes to hiding it as white meat. So that is very common for a lot of shark species. So some of those common labels to look out for, they are also called dogfish, flake, or even catfish as well. And unfortunately, guys, those are just secret labels for shark, okay? So the more you know about those labels, you're able to make the correct decision to make sure you're not directly consuming these. Sharks, they are apex predators as well, so through the process of bioaccumulation, there is a fairly high percentage of mercury in them as well. So in our best interest for our health as well, eating shark is not necessarily the best decision when it comes to your dietary choices, okay? Of course, taking away the fact that they are the doctors of our oceans, they do monitor the species, especially those prey populations that they are working with. They take out all those sick individuals and, of course, maintain any genetic diversity. So without our sharks monitoring that, of course, ecosystems can see a decline. Of course, another way to do this, unfortunately, shark is also hidden in some other common products, and unfortunately, beauty products as well, okay? So anti-aging creams, sun cream, and even lip gloss, they can contain a product called squalene. So this is an oil achieved from the liver of sharks, and unfortunately has been put into some of these products as people do see it as beneficial. Of course, reading your labels, you're able to identify any of these ingredients that are on there. And there are alternatives too. Okay, so squalene can be made from plant-based sources. It is just a natural oil. So through a different process, you're able to make a more sustainable choice. And of course, a choice that means no sharks are dying in the name of beauty as well.
And again, another thing, guys, educating yourself. As me and Amy being guides, we are educating about 30,000 people a year. We don't take them out just to show them the beautiful sharks, but also to make them sure that they are supporting conservation as well. And as Amy said, now there's quite a few that don't know that actually your beauty products can contain squalene as well. So please make sure to check your labels, and that's the way you can help us as well.
Of course, when it comes to selecting the choices of ecotourism, that is a great way to make sure you can interact with these animals, but also make sure you're doing it in the best way possible. Susie, you do have a little bit of a shout out from your mom over there.
Hi, Mom.
Biggest supporters always. But of course, guys, as we said, with ecotourism, it is one of the best ways to make sure that you are interacting with the animals in a way that it isn't harming them. So here at Marine Dynamics, one of the ways that we ensure we're as sustainable as possible, we do use fishery waste, okay, when it comes to our chum and our bait. So this does close the waste cycle when it comes to aquaculture, and also means no fresh fish is killed for the purpose of our shark cage diving trips. It's one of the easiest ways to make sure we are making the best decision when it comes to it, and also avoiding feeding our sharks. So as mentioned, with these sharks, they do monitor the rest of the ecosystem. So we want them to leave our cages hungry. So of course we aren't keeping them there. The bait is just used to keep their attention, get them in, so you guys can have an up close and personal interaction with these animals without altering the behavior or changing the way the ecosystem is operating as well. But of course, here at Marine Dynamics, we do also operate with our Dyer Island Conservation Trust. We have universal and, of course, global collaborations with different universities. This is to establish over 40 peer-reviewed papers through our company as well. So we are consistently helping other universities, helping other conservation establishments to know more about our animals. And of course, it is a fantastic way to make sure the data that we do collect is put to good use, put directly into conservation as well.
So again, guys, before we are wrapping up, if you would have any questions, of course, feel free. All right, guys, so we do have a question from Janine. What is the significance of the shark's role in marine ecosystems? So as we did mention earlier, sharks, they are apex predators or top of the food chain. So in their environment or in their ecosystem, they do keep this healthy by taking out sick individuals, for example, injured individuals, which continuously goes down the food chain. Of course, you have sharks that is top predators like your white shark, even when it comes to the seven gills as well, that can hunt for seals, for example, that many don't know. You do have the smaller species that is also the ones keeping the seafloor also under control. So we do need them in all our oceans to have a healthy ecosystem and also for our own survival for the future. Good question.
Yeah, definitely. So of course, guys, we are going to wrap it up over there as well. We do want to say thank you so much for engaging with us and supporting us. Of course, we're always going to invite you to come over here into South Africa, say hi. But of course, we've got to see what is the biggest shark you've ever seen. So for me, myself, I was very lucky to see a 4.5 meter female white shark during my internship time at 2022. So that was a good incentive for me to know that this is what I want my office to look like.
For me, the biggest one, over 5 meters. But I do remember first time I came to Gansbaai, South Africa. That was now 11 years ago. On my first shark cage diving trip, there was 8 different white sharks. But the first white shark I ever saw was a 5 meter female next to 1.5 meters juvenile. So that was also a crazy thing to see. But yeah, little over 5 meters is the biggest one I have seen. Yeah, it's massive. But we do enjoy, of course, our other species as well. As I said, if I see a 7-gill shark just under 1 meter, gets me very excited as well. All right, you guys. So first of all, we want to thank you all for joining us in here today. Of course, if you don't live in South Africa, if you're planning to take your trip here to Gansbaai, we are just a 2.5 hours drive from the mother city of Cape Town. We are located in a little small fishing village, again, in Gansbaai, and we hope we can see you guys in the future. And to wrap it all up, we are going to show you guys a beautiful video to give you a little perspective of what to expect if you join us for shark cage diving here with Marine Dynamics. Again, guys, thank you so much from
Amy
and Susie. We hope to see you guys in the future, and thank you for your support, guys. Thank you.